Welcome, and thank you for tuning into Instinctive Talk. I'm your host, Jay Insalaco. Today on Instinctive Talk, my guest is Gabe Howard. Gabe Howard is an award-winning podcast host, author, and sought-after speaker. In 2003, he was diagnosed with bipolar and anxiety disorders after being committed to a psychiatric hospital. Gabe hosts the weekly Inside Mental Health podcast for Healthline Media and is the author of Mental Illness is an Asshole. Hi, this is Jay Insalaco, and I'm your host of Instinctive Talk. Today, I want to welcome Gabe Howard to the show. How you doing, Gabe?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I'm really glad that you are here, Gabe. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for putting out a bipolar, a schizophrenic, and a podcast because that podcast has brought me back from my hiatus, and I'm back with my mental health advocacy. And you and Michelle were two people that spoke open and honestly, really pulled me back into advocacy work, and I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, you are very welcome, and thank you for telling me that. I got to tell you, Michelle and I, we get mostly criticism for that show, but the criticism doesn't come from the Jasons of the world. It doesn't come from the Gabes of the world. It doesn't come from the Michelles of the world. It comes from people who aren't living with mental illness. So we do know that we're hitting the mark, but it makes people really uncomfortable. They're just like, why are you joking about that? Why are you saying that? Why are you being so cavalier? And I'm like, look, this is how we talk, and this is how we talk to ourselves. This is how we talk in the dark rooms. This is how we talk to each other. This is how we lay awake in the middle of the night and process what we're going through. So I'm really, really happy that it's resonating because, as I said, we don't get a lot of positive feedback on the show, but we do genuinely know that we're hitting the mark with our target audience. But thank you sincerely for saying something nice to us. We need it. We're vulnerable people.
Well, Gabe, I've been following you for years, and I think you're a great advocate. I always notice a lot of similarities in your life and in mine. We both were diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I associated a lot of things that you were doing. They were very similar with what I was doing in my life and what I wanted to be doing, for advocacy work, as my passion. I don't know if you could take some time, talk about your background of your life around your diagnosis years and what was life like for you in those years.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed back in 2003 when I was 26 years old, and if I say nothing else, I want to make sure that people hear this. 24 hours before I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and committed to a psychiatric hospital, I thought I was fine. I thought that mental illness was something that happened to other people. I thought it was people who came from bad families. I all the stigma that I now work so hard to dispel and reduce and all the conversations that I have with people, I really look at all of those people as Gabe 24 hours before he was diagnosed. I believe that one of the reasons that I have so much patience for this advocacy work is because I really just feel like I'm talking to myself before I was diagnosed, because I did all the things. I did all the things. I did all the wrong things. I created all the stigma. I said all the offensive things. I was all of the things that I'm trying to prevent now. I was, because I was uneducated, because my family was uneducated, because we believed what the media told us, because we believed the pop culture representations, because because of ignorance and the way our society is set up. I don't think I'm a bad person. I don't think my family are bad people, but the way that we approached everything could have ended my life. My parents could be advocates right now talking about their charismatic, loud, gregarious son, Gabe, who died by suicide because they just didn't know. And I meet a lot of those advocates. I meet a lot of friends and family member and parents of people who died by suicide. And I'm so thankful that I still get to be here. But the thread that connects all of those things is nobody knew. Nobody knew, nobody understood, so nobody could provide that help. And that's, if there's just anything that I can say, it's that I'm so lucky that I'm still here, and I want to make sure that I can do as much as humanly possible to help people like Gabe before he was diagnosed, and to help families like Gabe before he was diagnosed. avoid all of the stuff that we went through. And of course, we acknowledge that it could have been so much worse.
Gabe, I came across this definition of recovery. It's a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. So the question I have for you, when did you start accepting your diagnosis and working towards recovery?
I really accepted my diagnosis right away, but I want to remind the audience that I accepted it while, committed to a psychiatric hospital. So there was a lot going on. I want to take people back just a little bit before my diagnosis, because I thought about suicide constantly, and I thought about suicide from birth. So that means I thought it was normal. I thought that this idea of wanting to die was typical. I thought that everybody weighed the pros and cons of life or death. I thought that, think about the symptoms of bipolar disorder, the mania, the suicidal thoughts, the depression, the grandiosity, the everything in between, the irritability, the anger, the hypersexuality. I just thought all of this was normal because it's all I had ever experienced. I just thought this was the normal range. I thought this was, I thought all of this was normal, Jason. So when I woke up in a psychiatric hospital and somebody started saying, this is not normal. This is not how other people think. This is not right. That little bit of a challenge was like, yeah, you're making a lot of sense here, because how can anybody live this way? How can anybody survive this? How can anybody manage this? It didn't take much to convince me, right? I use the example of Santa Claus. I don't know if you were raised believing in Santa Claus, but I was raised believing in Santa Claus. And little 6-year-old Gabe loved to believe in Santa Claus. But then one day I thought about it. I just thought about it for a second, and I'm like, wait a minute, this makes no sense. This just makes no sense. And I went to my mom and I'm like, Mom, this makes no sense. And I'm like, boom. And she's like, no. It's all that, she just desperately tried, but the glass had shattered, right? The wool had been lifted from my eyes, right? I had reached the age where you just couldn't trick me with no Santa is magic anymore. And that's how I felt when I was in the psychiatric hospital. I was like, you know what? I used to believe that all these things were true, but now you're showing me that it's not. And I believe you. I can't believe that it took this long for people to realize that I was doing this, for me to realize that I was doing this. So I accepted it right away, but it took a long time to get there. Right. Accepting that I was sick is step one. Figuring out what to do about it is step 2 through 99. Reaching recovery is step 100. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of work. It took me 4 years from the time that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder to the time that I reached recovery. What I accept as recovery was a solid 4 years.
I shared with you that I came back into advocacy work after a 4.5 year hiatus. I had a friend and a mentor, and he died by suicide. And this was the first time that I've ever came into anybody who died by suicide. So I didn't know how to take that. And, I think I'm still getting over it. I just don't understand it yet. I just don't understand the whole scope around it. Because I've never had any kind of suicidal ideations or any thoughts like that. I never lived with it. I live with, bipolar disorder type 1 and addiction issues, but I never had those kind of symptoms or thoughts. So it was hard for me to process, why he would do that, because I never thought that way. I don't know. I think I'm struggling on how to accept that.
I think when it comes to suicidality and mental illness, we think that if we think hard enough, if we apply enough logic, that it's going to be like the magic, the magician, the illusion. We're going to figure out how we did the trick. And then we're going to be like, okay, all right, the world makes sense again. But here's the thing. Some things just don't make sense. Some things you just can't apply logic to it. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just unfair. When my grandfather died, it was just like, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. I should have my grandfather here. It's not fair. He didn't do anything wrong, and he didn't, but he's still gone. And your friend didn't do anything wrong. That's hard for us to accept because if we can just figure out what went wrong, then we can blame it. And if we can blame something or someone, we can be mad at them. And if we can be mad at them, we can get rid of all of these emotions and put it on them, and it's their fault. And this happens a lot when people die by suicide. We decide to be angry at them. They're a victim. They died by suicide because something went very wrong with their lives and their heads in that moment. Things that we probably can't ever understand because we just can't. If we can just be mad at them, then we don't have to be sad anymore. There's nothing we can do about it, and it's just not fair, and it's uncomfortable, and we have to accept it, and we don't want to. We just don't want to.
Well, believe it or not, Gabe, that really did it put a spin on it that I just wasn't looking at. And honestly, it was a complete surprise. I didn't see it coming. And I think I do. I wanted something to blame for. Like, what was the reason, or who was the reason? At least some kind of reason, but there really wasn't any reason. And I think that's why I was struggling so hard for so many years, and I just didn't want to think about it. I mean, he was a great guy. He taught me things, and he really touched a lot of lives. And really, it just that the mental health world is missing a brother now, and it's somebody who really felt passionate, was a family man, and I respected him, and there's nowhere or no one, nothing to blame it on, because there really is no reason. And I think that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it is.
I don't think we can ever know certain things, and I think we just have to be okay with it. And if you're people like myself, I can only use myself as an example. I think we're similar, Jason. I do, in that I want to know. I want to know. I just want, even if it's bad, I just want to know. But I know an awful lot of things that didn't provide me any comfort, and I think this might be one of them.
Right.
Might be. I don't know. I'm so uncomfortable with that, as you've indicated that you are too, and I understand as much as I can understand. If that makes sense. I don't want to pretend that I feel your pain, because I don't feel your pain. I don't know it, but I understand as much as I can. And I'm certainly, I'm empathetic for you. And I want to hug you, but we're not in the same place. I'm struggling with not being able to hug you, man.
Gabe, I appreciate you speaking about this, because honestly, I really had I had no reasons, no explanations, and honestly, I work a 9-to-5 job, and I don't get the privilege to talk to people on a daily basis, about suicide and things around it. So this is really helping me out more than I mean, let's bring it back to you, man. I want to congratulate you. I seen online that you were speaking at Oxford. And
that's true. I did. I spoke at Oxford.
That's a big, huge accomplishment, man. I looked at that. I'm like, look at this, man. This guy's doing great things, and he's being recognized for it, and that's great.
In America right now, like as you and I are sitting here talking right now, there are mental health charities and organizations who are tasked with helping people with mental illness. And on their advisory committees, on their boards of directors, in their leadership, they do not have people with lived experience of severe and persistent mental illness. They're not recruiting them for those boards. They're not talking to them. They're not getting information from them. They're talking to their family members, their support systems, their caregivers. They're talking to doctors and police officers, and they're talking to the people around them. But actually having significant and robust and meaningful conversations with people living with serious and persistent mental illness is more uncommon than people think. It's just not something that a lot of places are seeking out. So to be a man living with bipolar disorder, to be a person living with bipolar disorder, a voice, somebody with that experience, and asked to speak at Oxford, it feels like a seismic shift just to have been asked. It feels like a watershed moment in our movement, not because Gabe was asked. Forget about Gabe. I'm nothing in this story. What I am is a person with lived experience of living with bipolar disorder, who has been committed to a psychiatric hospital, who manages this illness every day. And Oxford saw the need to talk to somebody with my credentials. Yes, they could have chosen anybody, and it still would have been a massive moment for our movement, for our advocacy, for our cause, because they've talked to a lot of doctors, they've talked to a lot of psychologists, they've talked to a lot of people when it comes to mental health and helping people with mental illness. But for arguably one of the first times in history, they're just like, you know what? We need somebody doing this. We need somebody with that lived experience, and we need to sit them down. We need to ask them some questions with all of the pomp and circumstance and history and amazing and magic and wisdom and whatever words you want to use of Oxford, of that weight behind the conversation and behind the questions. And that's awesome. It gives me such hope for what the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years is going to look like when it comes to mental health and mental illness advocacy. I hope this is not just a blip and then it's forgotten. I hope that this is in fact the start of something big, but I got to sit in the same spot as Einstein. When he addressed the union, I got to sit in the same spot as Mother Teresa when she addressed the union. I got to sit in the same spot as Morgan Freeman when he addressed the union. I don't know which one of those people is cooler. It's Morgan Freeman. It's always Morgan Freeman. Like, his voice alone, my voice echoed the same halls as Morgan Freeman. Right. So if you call my agent because you need voiceover work, that's fine. I'll do it. I will narrate anything that you want. Right. It's been about 25 years. So they got to be ready to reboot Shawshank Redemption. I'll be the narrator this time. That guy's name is Red. I have red hair.
There you go.
Practically just, this is perfect. I am just, I got to go, Jason, because Hollywood is going to be calling any minute now. And I want to make sure that I'm available in all seriousness. I lack words. The best that I can do is to say that I am speechless. I am amazed and make really inappropriate and ill-timed jokes because I'm just so uncomfortable with the idea that it happened that it just happened.
You know something, Gabe? I mean, it was you, and they picked you, and for good reason, because you have a way with words, and you have a way with reaching people, and you have a way of, explaining situations that can be unexplainable. Now, here's a podcast episode that you're having with me, and I just threw it out there about my friend, and I wanted some kind of explanation for it, and you gave me something that it's unexplainable, and you're making me realize that it is unexplainable because you don't know what's going on in somebody's mind. You don't know what's going on in somebody's life. And I wanted somebody to blame. And because what you were sharing with me hit me so hard, because it's making me realize you don't live in that person's shoes. You don't live in that person's head. And these are the things I think I wanted something to blame, like you said, and there is nobody to blame. There's nothing to blame. Do I blame the disorder? I don't know. To get back to the point, Gabe, they picked you because you make things happen. You make people think. You make people understand. All I'm saying is, you made me rethink something that took me about 4.5 years to get back onto, the advocacy work again. And that's much appreciated. Thank you.
I sincerely appreciate that. And, I don't want to steal your show. I don't, but I want to say, I really think the secret to my success, if there is one, I want to be super clear. If there's any secret to my success, it's that way back when I decided that I didn't want to make fans. I wanted to make critical thinkers. My goal was just to say it, just to get it out there and let the chips fall where they may. If people disagree with me, that's fantastic. If people love it, that's more fantastic. I love it when people love me, but sincerely, what I really wanted was people to listen to what I said, apply it to their own life, figure out how it can make them better and use it to make them better. Or listen to what I say, figure out that it doesn't apply to their own life and decide, you know what, I don't agree with that, but if I make these tweaks, I can apply it to my life and live my life better, and everything in between. I really think that so many people are so busy trying to be agreed with that their messaging gets lost. My message is my message. My information is my information. I am like a word salad bar. You take what you want and you leave the rest. And here's the big thing about salad bars, right? You ever go to a salad bar and you got like 100 items? Now you can't eat 100 items. So you pick the ones that you like and you leave the rest, right? Everybody understands that. But here's the thing that I want people to understand. If you ever go to a salad bar and take what you want, leave the rest, and then stand in front of something and scream at it that you hate it, you're gonna look stupid. There is no reason to yell from the rooftops when you disagree with someone. There's just not. It's literally like going to a salad bar and screaming that you hate ranch dressing. I hate that dressing. That dressing is wrong and it shouldn't be here. I hate the ranch. I hate the ranch. I hate the ranch. I hate the ranch. I just don't get the ranch. We're cool. Don't get the ranch. Now, I've been giving this speech for a long time, and finally somebody sent me an email and they're like, but what if the ranch is moldy and will kill people who eat it? I'm like, okay, if the ranch is moldy and will kill people who eat it, then you should utilize the proper channels to get the people to remove the ranch. And I got to tell you, screaming and yelling in a restaurant that the ranch is moldy is probably not the fastest way to get the ranch removed. Calling over a manager and saying, you got to get that out of here real quick, like pick it up and go, like, wow, that's really dangerous, man. Like, what can we do to fix this? That's going to get a lot more movement and help a lot more people than screaming and yelling and making a scene. And we've got to apply that to advocacy. And again, this is one of those situations where if you disagree with me, that's okay. Utilize those critical thinking skills to figure out how to make it work for you and move on and live your life. There are so many advocates. But I hope that you will stick with me for a while, because every now and again, I say some smart things, I think. Definitely funny things. Well, marginally interesting things. And I love movies. I love books. I love big advocates. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is probably my favorite advocate of all time for many, many reasons. And so many advocates believe that that is what they need to be, that they need to be Dr. King. Nobody is Dr. King except Dr. King. He's a once in a lifetime advocate. He is amazing in so many ways that none of us will ever be able to come close to. But here's the thing that we can come close to. He was effective for the people who heard him. We can match that efficacy. We can be effective for the people who hear us. Will it be less people? Absolutely. It's going to be way less people than Dr. King. I just want to tell you right now, it's going to be way less people than Dr. King. But you can be effective for the people that hear you. And if we can get 10,000 Gabes, if we can get 10,000 Jasons, if we can get 10,000 people who each reach one person, this problem will resolve itself in a few decades. But listen, if we get nobody, if everybody decides that they're not going to reach anybody, that, well, I can't be Dr. King, so I quit. I can't be Gabe, so I quit. I can't be Jason, so I quit. I can't be Michelle Hammer. I got to throw in Michelle eventually. I quit. You're not going to reach those people. And we're going to lose out on tens of thousands of people. And I'm doing this thing where I'm taking this 30,000 foot view where I'm trying to get as many people helped as humanly possible, right? I'm kind of running numbers where I'm like, look, we need to reach tens of thousands of people so that they can reach each one person. And that gets us to 100,000 of people. But you know what? Throw that all away. Imagine if you're the one. Imagine if you're the one. Forget about the other 10,000, the other 100,000. Forget about all the other advocates and all the other people helped. Let's say that you're wandering around and the thing that you need was created and you're the only one who heard it, and your life changes dramatically. Imagine if you're that one person who helped that one person. That's incredible. One person changed my life. She wasn't even an advocate. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time with the right amount of knowledge. And she saved my life. She wasn't even trying. And I am here because of her. So many people, they're just like, well, it's not worth it because I'm not going to be big. I'm not going to be a millionaire. I'm not going to have a podcast or a television show or a speaking career or whatever. We need you so badly. And people don't want to do it because they've got this idea that we all have to be on the same level. That one person needs you so desperately. But, you know, I also want to say, I didn't think I was ever going to get here. I really didn't. I started speaking for free, volunteering for a local mental health charity. I didn't know it was going to turn into all of this. Could you imagine if when they asked me to speak 15 years ago, I'd been like, look, nobody's going to listen to me. Due with bipolar disorder, I'm not that good of a public speaker. Because I wasn't. I sucked terribly. I would have been like, no, I'm not going to reach anybody. I'm not going to be any good. So I'm not going to do it. And then I wouldn't have done it. And then I never would have gotten to Oxford because it would have meant that I didn't have faith in myself. And I want to say that to all the people that are just like, well, I'm not going to reach enough people. One, you don't know that. You don't know how many people you're going to reach. Nobody can predict the future. Nobody. You might end up being the Dr. King. You just don't know. But you could also be somebody who reaches thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, or you could be somebody who reaches the right person, just the right person. And that person will be so thankful for you forever. And once again, you'll probably never know it. You'll just probably never know it. That person might not even know it either. But you saved their life because you just went ahead and put it out there anyway.
Well, you know something, Gabe, I want you to know just by this conversation, like years ago, man, like, you know, I created Instinctive Bird in 2011. So that's when the advocacy started. Just so, you know, if people didn't know, that's like when I started, like, you know, moving forward with advocacy. And I was following you, you know, all the way back. You know, I wanted you on my podcast because you reached me when I got back into advocacy. And now you're here on my podcast. You just explained things that were unexplainable. And now I have a different kind of wisdom about things. So you're reaching me again.
We got to keep talking. We just have to keep talking. I wish that people understood that no conversation about our emotions, about our mental health, about our mental illness, about how we're feeling, about our fears or our goals, those conversations are never wasted. We've become a society that really believes that everything has to be what's the word I'm looking for? Like it has to be monetized or it has to be productive, or it has to create something or invent something or do something. I hear just all of these words all the time. Did it further your goals? And I hear this all the time. And I'm just like, what happened? I'm 46 years old. I just want to say that what happened to staying up all night, eating pizza and talking about things with no hope of anything? Where did that go? Because these were big moments in my life, in my formative years. And I got to tell you, even at 46 years old right now, staying up all night and eating pizza and talking about nonsense, going on a road trip where in the whole drive, we just talk about nothing. It's like, what'd you guys do for 8 hours? We talked. What'd you talk about? You know, I really don't know. People are like, no, we have to be productive. We have to monetize that. We have to create content. I think that sometimes people just need to sit around and connect with another person with no expectation of anything and realize that there is deep healing and magic in those, I guess what people call unproductive, unstructured moments. Not everything has to make money to be valuable. And I don't want to be one of these like old people. It's like the problem with the younger generation is because the 46-year-olds are doing it too. This is not the younger people aren't having conversations, but my generation's still doing it right. Nope. My generation is staring at their phones just as much as the 20-year-olds. We all at some point have stopped having unstructured conversations. And I think we need to get back to it because I think that there is beauty in the accidental. And I think we're just trying to be way too structured. And I do think it's impacting our mental health. I do think it's making us disconnected. I do think it's contributing to the rise in anxiety. If every moment has to be productive, we're never going to succeed. Not every moment can be productive. And that just means that you've failed all the time. And I can see where that would just make anybody crazy, right? What'd you do today? Nothing. I'm a failure. I made no money. So that sounds like Saturday to me. No, you don't understand. I didn't accomplish anything. That's okay.
There's too much pressure.
This is, it's an incredible amount of pressure. And then we get on social media and we compare our stuff to people who don't exist, right? Just the people on social media are not real. They're curated real. They're based on a true story. They are not, in fact, a true story. And you know how I know, Jason, you know how I know?
How do you know?
Close. You know how I know that social media is bullshit? Because I never see on social media that anyone has diarrhea. You ever see that? No, I'm serious. Just like all of my friends, they never have diarrhea. Like, isn't that amazing? They never have it. I never see it on social media. And since we know that social media is true, it must mean that I crossed all of my social media platforms. I have 100,000 people, and that 100,000 people based all across the United States never gets diarrhea. It's amazing. Or they don't post it when that happens because, ew, God, I don't, just please, if you're listening, do not start posting that you have to, just please, that would, and no pictures, like picker, it didn't happen, does not apply here. But sincerely, Jason, it's curated. It's BS, right? It's not, I don't want to call it BS because it's just curated. It's your happiest moments. It's your fondest memories. You post when your kids hug you. You don't post when your kids have a temper tantrum and tell you that they hate you. In fact, you go out of your way to not put that. And I'm not disagreeing with that. Could you imagine if every time I got in a fight with my mom, she put it on Facebook? That'd be devastating. But my mom and I disagree about stuff all the time. Over Christmas, she's like, I'm in the doghouse and Gabe won't talk to me. I'm like, I am talking to you. I am talking to you. Why do you think I'm not talking to you? She's like, well, I called you and you didn't answer. I was recording a podcast. She's like, well, usually you answer. You usually don't call when I'm recording a podcast, right? I didn't put that on social media because what am I supposed to do? My mom is being an insufferable. No, I think you understand what I mean, Jason. I think I have pushed the point so far into the ground as if to have buried it.
You know what, Gabe, I just want to thank you for being on the show. You touched my heart. I appreciate it as a person. I appreciate you as an advocate. And, I just want to personally thank you for, doing all the work that you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You're very, very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. If I can plug my book.
Absolutely.
Are we at the plug
sure.
stage?
Yes, we are.
Hey, listen up, everybody. I wrote a book called Mental Illness is an Asshole and Other Observations, which you can get on Amazon. But listen, here's a super secret. If you go to my website, GabeHoward.com, and buy it there, some magical things happen. 1, I make more money. Not going to lie, I make more money. But 2, I can throw in a bunch of stickers and swag. And 3, I can sign it. And I like all of those things. So you can buy the book on Amazon because everything is available on Amazon, or you can go to GabeHoward.com and I will sign it, throw in some swag. I will just do it up. It'll be amazing. Jason, he got so much stuff. Like he had to hire a U-Haul to get it out of his garage, just thousands upon thousands. Actually, it was like a book and 4 stickers. Now I'm overselling. I think there might've been a pen. But listen, sincerely, there's a lot to check out there. And I hope that everybody gets something out of it. I do think it's a cool book. And as always, I have to give a huge shout out to Lisa Kiner. She's my producer. She does so much work on the podcast. She helped put together the book. In fact, the book was her idea because I said books were stupid and didn't want to do it. Another thing that I was wrong about, her list is growing, but I always give a huge, huge shout out to Lisa because she's cool. And, I don't pay her enough. So I pay her in shout outs.
All right, Gabe, I appreciate your time, man. And, thank you for being on the show, man.
Oh, you're very, very welcome.
All right, brother. You have a great night. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Instinctive Talk. If you want to connect with me, please visit my website at instinctivebird.com. If you want to buy a personalized version of my book, No More Crutch, it's also available on my website. If you could, please subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. Again, this is Jay Insalaco. Thanks for listening, and tune in next time to Instinctive Talk.